Welcome to Engagement Experts. This is 5 Minutes with Ian Stewart, CMO and CDO at Tom's Shoes.
Now, you've had an amazing career, but what did you think you would do for a living when you were, say, 10 years old?
Surfing.
Oh, you're not alone, my friend. You're not alone. Wow.
I still do it. That's the only thing I do. I chose early on in my life, partly because of my family and growing up at the beach in Australia, and my father, who said, don't get distracted by other hobbies, just do one really well. And by the time you get to my age, you'll be really good. And if you keep going, you'll be even better. So that's all I've ever done. I don't have a garage full of skis and snowboards and mountain bikes and fishing rods and tennis rackets and golf clubs. I have a garage full of surfboards. So
wonderful. Most memorable career win.
I have been so fortunate to have worked for so many great iconic brands that have done incredible things, from being at MTV with MTV's just explosive growth when it was the most powerful and relevant youth brand, and I was part of that journey. At Converse, celebrating 100 years and really doing some campaigns that recognize that Converse is not a brand that the company makes, it's what people do in the shoes that make the shoes so famous and recognized. So I was part of that journey. Part of the turnaround of UGG, because it's a beautiful brand that had lost its way, and we reminded people that its product is beautiful, and brought that back to relevance. And now the work we're doing at Tom's to reinvent purpose for the contemporary consumer. So sorry, that's not one thing. I think in each of my major jobs that I've had, there's been a big piece of turnaround, celebrating icons and knowing what it means to be an icon.
Fantastic win, being an icon. But what's the biggest goal you have not yet achieved?
To give back more. I had an opportunity not so long ago to spend a year in a nonprofit, and it really made me realize that the intersection of for-profit and non-profit is a really powerful place to be in. For non-profits to find the right way to work with for-profits, and for-profits to find the right way of working with non-profits, because you can really get some great alchemy when the two come together well. And I did that from inside the non-profit. I'm hopefully trying to do that more at Tom's as a for-profit, and I just want to do more of that. I really think that we need to give more as a world and as a society, and I think no matter which side of the coin you're sitting on, there's a lot more we can be doing.
That answer might just be a twofer, but maybe not, because the next question is biggest career turning point.
When I graduated from university in Australia, I decided to get ahead of my peers and go and work in Asia for 2 years, so that I could come back to Australia with in-market Asia Pacific experience that nobody else would have, because Asia was becoming increasingly important to Australia in the early 90s. I never went home 32 years later, so I'm sorry about that. That plan didn't actually work. But that decision to buy a one-way ticket on graduation to go and get practical in-market experience has been with me for the rest of my life. And I always tell people, don't let location hold you back on making career decisions, because the ability to be mobile, particularly early in your career, will open doors that you can't even imagine. And if you stay safe and stay where you are geographically, you'll limit yourself. And I've lived in 11 countries over 32 years. I've been home, but I haven't moved home. So that plan didn't actually come to pass, but it was a turning point.
Wow.
Fantastic lessons about life. What about the most important lesson you learned about marketing?
Celebrate our audience, not ourselves. The consumer doesn't need to hear how great a brand is. They need to hear how great a brand can make them feel or be or do or whatever. And one of my bosses early on, Jeff Cottrell at CMO at Converse, that was one of his famous tenets. Celebrate our audience, not ourselves. And I take that with me through all that I do, is what are we doing to make the audience, the consumer, the customer's life better? How are we thinking about them versus us, taking the ego away from it?
Well, you keep doing this, Tom, because that might be a 2 for 2, because the next question is biggest tip for marketers looking to boost retention.
Be useful. I think we have a huge opportunity to be very useful in marketing in any way, from the superficial, how do we make you feel better and look better and feel good about yourselves, particularly in fashion and footwear, to far higher level stuff like what are we doing as a brand and how are we connecting with our consumers to give back to society. So I think being useful is a great marketing challenge that takes you away from the superficial and makes you try and think more deeply about what it is we're actually doing.
Fantastic, and so simple. Just be useful. You've been at so many iconic brands. We talked about them: MTV, Converse, Uggs, now Tom's. What's the best advice for marketers who want to build an iconic brand?
Celebrate the icon. You didn't become an icon for no reason. And I think that so often, particularly in footwear and fashion, a lot of the business decisions are how many more products and categories can we add and get into, both adjacent and non-adjacent, because they just think that that's the way to grow. And actually be the opposite, where the more you celebrate what you're famous for and the more you elevate and celebrate that, because that's what made you famous and that's what people love about you. So go the opposite direction of expanding into all the different categories and shoe styles or fashion styles, and actually just celebrating what it is that makes you famous. So many brands forget that. And I learned that at Converse, that the Chuck Taylor is Converse, and the black Chuck is the Chuck Taylor. So if you do a campaign that celebrates the black Chuck, you're actually celebrating the brand, and the black Chuck represents everything that the brand stands for. It's the same at UGG with the UGG boot. It's the same at Tom's with the slip-on. If you celebrate, and at Tom's, it's the black on black slip-on. If you celebrate that core icon, everything else falls in behind it. You don't have to tell 72 stories. You just need to tell one. All the rest will follow.
We're getting an MBA in marketing right here, Peggy, and basically he's giving it away for free. I want to thank you again, Ian. This has been a wonderful time. This has been Engagement Experts, a very short version of Retention Masterclass brought to you by CleverTap. Thank you for being part of it.